November 1942. A German officer walks alone through the fog-choked streets of occupied Copenhagen. The city is quiet, almost peaceful. No sirens, no explosions, no sign that a war is raging across Europe. He has no idea that he is being watched. There is no warning, no sudden movement, no sound. One moment he is alive, the next his body collapses onto the cold cobblestones. No one hears a gunshot. Nearby civilians continue walking, unaware that an assassination has just taken place. By the time anyone notices the body, the killer is already gone, disappearing into the city. The weapon used does not look like a gun. It has no polished steel, no elegant grip, no recognizable military design. It resembles a crude metal tube, something closer to industrial scrap than a firearm. Yet this unremarkable object was one of the most effective covert weapons of the Second World War. It was called the well-rod pistol, and it was designed for a war that existed entirely in silence. World War II is often remembered as a conflict of massive armies, roaring tanks, and cities reduced to rubble. But behind the front lines, another war was being fought. A quiet war, where success depended on secrecy rather than strength. In 1940, Britain stood almost alone against Nazi Germany. Conventional military options were limited, and Winston Churchill demanded a new kind of resistance. His instruction was simple and ruthless: set Europe ablaze. To carry out this mission, Britain created the Special Operations Executive, known as SOE. Its agents were trained to operate behind enemy lines, organizing resistance movements, sabotaging infrastructure, gathering intelligence, and eliminating key targets. But assassination posed a serious problem. Killing someone quietly in an occupied city was far more difficult than it seemed. Knives required close contact and physical strength. Garrotes were slow and risky. Poison was unpredictable and often took too long. Conventional firearms were simply too loud. A single gunshot could bring German patrols within minutes. Silence weapons already existed, but they were deeply flawed. Suppressed submachine guns were still loud enough to be heard hundreds of meters away. Suppressed pistols reduced noise, but not nearly enough for urban environments. Even the best designs of the time still sounded unmistakably like gunfire. SOE needed something that had never truly existed before, a firearm that could kill at close range without announcing itself. The task of creating this impossible weapon fell to a secret research facility known as Station 9, located in Welwyn Garden City, north of London. The engineers working there did not approach the problem like traditional gunsmiths. Instead, they studied the physics of sound. They understood that a gunshot is not a single noise, but three: the explosion of propellant gases at the muzzle, the sonic crack of a bullet traveling faster than sound, and the mechanical noise of the weapon cycling. To achieve true silence, all three had to be eliminated. The first problem was the bullet itself. Standard 9mm ammunition travels faster than the speed of sound, creating an unavoidable crack as it moves through the air. The solution was to reduce the powder charge, slowing the bullet to subsonic speed. This removed the sonic crack entirely. Crucially, the designers kept the 9mm caliber, ensuring the weapon retained enough stopping power to be lethal with a single shot. Next came the mechanical noise. Semi-automatic pistols produce sound when the slide moves backward, eject the spent casing, and chambers a new round. In a quiet room, this sound is surprisingly loud. The well-rod eliminated this by using a manual bolt-action system. After each shot, the operator manually rotated and pulled back a knurled knob at the rear of the weapon. It was slow, but almost completely silent. The greatest innovation was the suppressor itself. Instead of attaching a suppressor to the barrel, the designers made the suppressor the core of the weapon. Nearly two-thirds of the well-rod's length consisted of internal expansion chambers separated by rubber wipes. When the gun was fired, propellant gases followed the bullet into this maze, where they were trapped, cooled, and slowed. By the time the gases exited the weapon, the energy was almost completely gone. The results were extraordinary. An unsuppressed pistol produces around 160 decibels of noise, enough to cause instant and permanent hearing damage. The well-rod produced approximately 73 decibels, comparable to the sound of a closing car door. At even a short distance, the noise blended into everyday urban sounds. Often, victims collapsed before anyone realized a weapon had been fired. Visually, the well-rod was plain and unattractive. It had no trigger guard, just a small curved trigger. The grip was a simple cylindrical tube wrapped in rubber, concealing a small magazine holding 6 rounds, later increased to 8. The sights were minimal, because the weapon was never intended for long-range accuracy. Its effective range was short, but at close distances, accuracy was almost irrelevant. Production began in late 1942, and exact numbers remain unknown even today. Records were destroyed, and serial numbers were deliberately scattered to prevent enemy intelligence from estimating production. By early 1943, well rods were being delivered to resistance groups across occupied Europe through secret supply drops. Resistance fighters quickly understood the weapon's value. In France, it was used for targeted assassinations of German officers and collaborators. These killings often took place in public locations, including cafes and apartment buildings, where conventional firearms would have caused immediate panic. In some cases, witnesses assumed the victim had collapsed from illness rather than gunfire. In Denmark, resistance groups used the well rod extensively against Gestapo informants and Danish Nazis. The weapon's silence allowed operations to be carried out in daylight, something previously considered impossible. In Norway, SOE agents used well rod during sabotage missions, silently eliminating guard without alerting nearby patrols. The few seconds of confusion that followed often meant the difference between escape and capture. Beyond its physical effectiveness, the well rod had a powerful psychological impact. German occupation forces began to realize that silence offered no protection. Death could arrive without warning, without sound, and without witnesses. Informants became harder to recruit. Collaborators understood that betrayal might result in sudden, unexplained death. Fears spread quietly, just like the weapon itself. Other nations attempted similar designs. The Americans produced a suppressed .22 caliber high-standard pistol, which was quiet but lacked stopping power. Multiple shots were often required, and performance through clothing was unreliable. German suppressed pistols reduced noise but remained clearly audible. The well rod alone combined near total silence with lethal effectiveness. The weapon was not perfect. Its suppressor relied on rubber components that degraded over time. The bolt-action system limited rate of fire, and accuracy beyond short distances was poor. But these limitations were acceptable. The well rod was never meant for prolonged combat. It was designed for brief moments where silence mattered more than speed. The well rod did not chain front lines or win famous battles. It did not appear in victory parades or propaganda films. For decades, its story remained classified, yet its legacy endures. It proved that war could be fought without noise, without chaos, and without spectacle. In the hidden war behind enemy lines, silence itself became a weapon.